Where are we going?
Going up to Vortex. Where are they at?
Optics.
Outside of Janesville?
They're in
I think Barnelli.
Barneveld.
Barneveld.
Barneveld. Let's see. Barneveld, Wisconsin. It's actually right near Dodgeville, I believe, and like the Cave of the Mounds. Almost there. Where are we at now?
Just driving on the Beltline through Madison here.
Beltline. That's kind of a fancy terms and some cheesehead shit.
Local lingo, yeah.
You're from here, kind of.
Kinda. Spent some time here.
Yeah, you're an authentic cheesehead, I understand, Ken.
Still a resident.
So we're just outside of Madison, almost there. All right, here we are. Vortex Showroom Edge and Distribution Center. That sounds good. Beautiful campus here. Let's check this out. Let's see, we're looking for Tucker, aren't we? Tucker.
Mickey, nice to meet you, sir.
Where are we?
We are Vortex Optics. We're glad to have you, and we're going to show you around for the day.
Awesome. So I didn't realize on our way up here that you guys had a spot for the public to walk in. Looks like you can pretty much manhandle everything you guys sell.
Yeah, we typically don't sell to the public. We are dealer direct, but we do have a place where if locals or maybe people make the trip out to come in and visit, this is kind of the welcoming area for that. If somebody comes in needing something for a hunt, we don't want to like turn them away, you know what I mean? So we will help that person, but we typically keep things to the dealers, and aside from some apparel and stuff, people come in to grab often.
Get a picture and grab some swag.
Yep.
What's the synopsis? What Vortex is all about? You guys started in '86, I know.
86, yeah, so Eagle Optics was like the mothership, right? That's where it started. It was actually like a side portion in a Wild Birds Unlimited store, so it was actually like a bird seed store. Dan and Margie.
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, Dan and Margie were originally just hobby birdists. They were birders. They spotted, looked for birds, and then they opened a store in which they ended up selling binoculars. He ended up kind of branding his own, and that was Eagle Optics, right? So that's where Vortex started.
Zero to do with hunting or guns. Okay.
Correct. And to this day, I don't believe Dan or Margie hunt. The boys do. Some of the boys, the Hamiltons. There's four brothers that kind of run the ship now. A few of them are avid hunters, and Vortex Optics came into the picture around '03, and that's kind of where the rifle scope, spotting scope kind of entered the mix.
Okay.
So this is our new showroom. We moved into this building 2018,
okay.
So roughly 5 years ago.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate it. They spent a lot of time in kind of designing everything. You'll see a lot of taxidermy around the walls. That's either from employees or from customers that honestly, their wives are probably like, get that out of my house. Right? That's probably
not in the living room.
That's probably where some of it comes from, but we're happy to house it. So as you look around, you'll see kind of a lot throughout the building. So
I love it.
Spotters, binos, rangefinders, typically over here in this area.
Okay. So I see some stuff here I recognize. We've got some of this stuff.
Yep, if you're using spotters, this is kind of where most of them are housed, and they have the tripods set up there on the right. If you want to look kind of across the conservancy there, you can kind of get a good view of what you're looking at. Obviously, you're looking through a pane of glass, so it's not quite the same. Yeah, so that's this side.
There's a bunch of stuff in here I want to play with before we leave.
Well, you're welcome to do that. That's kind of the point, right?
What's this?
So it's a monocular, right? There's three different types. I believe that one is the Recon, so it should be 15 power with a reticle, I believe, right?
So what would somebody use this for? I see you've got 300, 400, 500, 600 meter with a silhouette in there.
Let me see what we got. So that would be like some sort of ranging feature, right? So this is, yeah, so that's like a man-sized target if it fits within that silhouette. It's roughly that distance. Obviously, it's based on like an average size person if you're using the range, but it also has that mill reticle in there. So if you're spotting for a buddy, you can mill targets and tell them corrections and stuff like that. Super cool. Guys shoot a lot of like long range stuff, PRS style shooting.
What caliber?
I'm running 6 GT now, have for a couple of years, but I've been through all of them. I make it.
Okay. Who's brass?
Alpha.
Okay.
I just enjoy reloading, right? I have a big setup in my basement, so I spend a lot of time down there. But I mean, some of these factory ammos are getting like 5 and 6 SDs across 10 rounds. I mean,
so he's shooting the Gay Tiger.
Yeah, I've been through all of them. Like I started with 6.5 Creed, right? Like that was the thing for a while. Then I went to 6BR. 6 Creedmoor, ended up settling on GTs, kind of like that happy middle ground. It's a good cartridge. I've shot it for a while, and those guys at Alpha do make really good brass.
They do.
So they're good.
So you guys got like frickin' how many SKUs for rifle optics?
That's a question I don't know the answer to.
200.
There's a bunch.
Yeah.
There's our Crossfire Diamondback line. There is a whole lot of each of them, but each scope's got to have MOA, MRAD. And then you have your different mag ranges, first, second focal plane.
You guys have like, I don't know what you use, good, better, best, like what's the...
Yeah. The tier?
Yeah.
So our tier is pretty standardized. Crossfire is kind of like that entry level. Diamondback, you get a few more features, so it's the next step up. And then recently we've released the Venom line, which we've had in red dot for a while, but we've just recently kind of opened up that scope line. So that's kind of coming in between.
What is Crossfire is the entry?
Correct.
And then the next one up was?
Diamondback.
So what do you get with the Diamondback that's not in the
Just a few more features, a little better turret system. Turret system pretty basic on this guy, right? That's a solid LPVO for a few $100. Covers everything.
I actually like how uncongested it is.
Yeah,
some of the super congested
It's
stuff
weird how people are, right? Some people just want this.
Yeah.
Basic V-Plex reticle, but I like all the information, right? Yeah, so that's the 1-4 Crossfire LPVO. So to get into LPVO at the price point of all the Crossfires,
a few $100
is not a whole lot. Diamondbacks are here. So you can notice like the turret systems start getting a little better. You got adjustable parallax on some of the bigger scopes. But there's a wide variety inside the Diamondback line from the higher end and then all the way down to the entry level. So we try to provide options in each of the lines for whoever may need it, right? The same rifle can be used a lot of different ways.
Sure.
So it's nice to have all the options on
Right.
it.
What was the point you just made about the reticle?
Some people just like basic, crosshair, and a lot of like old school hunters, like that's all they want. They don't want to get confused. But once you kind of get a little more advanced in the ballistic world, at least for me personally, I want all the information. I want to be able to hold over and hold wind, out at distance.
So that's when we start getting into some of these higher end.
Yeah.
optics.
So and this was the Venom line I was talking about. This one is actually 5-25.
This one is between which?
So that's just below the Strike Eagle and just above the Diamondback. So you're going to notice you have all the features on here pretty much. I believe the only thing it's missing above the Strike Eagle is a locking turret system and an illuminated reticle.
So...
And I believe that one comes in, don't quote me because I don't deal with prices a whole lot, but it's right around $500. And for a 5-25, 34 millimeter first focal plane, that's kind of hard to beat.
First focal plane, second focal plane.
That's the question.
Yeah, so that's another one, like, which do you prefer?
First. And the reason for that, there's pros and cons to each. The problem with a first focal plane, which is kind of what most long range guys prefer, is when you're on lower power, it's harder to see the reticle.
So explain real quick. So first focal plane, I've got my reticle, even if it's just a crosshair.
Correct.
As I zoom in, it does what?
So typically first focal planes are never gonna be just a crosshair.
I'm just saying, just for the sake of this discussion,
I'm gonna make it simple. So the big thing is the reticle in a first focal plane gets bigger and smaller. And the reason that matters is because it's a magnified optic. And if it's a main crosshair, it doesn't really come into play. But when you start using all the subtensions, they match your magnification range. So if I hold 2 mils on 4 power or 2 mils on 20 power, that memeasurement is going to be the same. Exactly.
Versus a second focal plane,
where that could be, we'll say 2 mils could be, 400 yards on max power. But if you go all the way down to min power, which on this is 5, it could be 600 yards, that hold. But if you dial, the crosshair is always going to be in the middle, so it kind of takes that out of the equation.
Somebody's got to know all of this, though.
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely it's harder. But the advantage is the reticle's big all the time. You can always see it.
It stays the same.
You can always see it.
In relationship to your zoom, it stays the same in reference to the viewer's eye.
Exactly. So even like say if it's a 5-25, even on 5 power, I'm going to be able to see that whole reticle and use it easily. Yeah, so like on some of our LPVOs, like our Razor, the 1-10, it goes from like a red dot on 1 power to a full-fledged reticle at 10. So then, if you're on 10 power, you're typically shooting further. If you need to hold over, then that's when you can kind of use your reticle. So here's your Strike Eagles, 5-25. We recently came out with the 3-18, all first focal plane, 34 mil tube, all the bells and whistles. It just comes in a little bit lower than like our Viper or Razor because it's just a little, it's a little bit cheaper to build.
Flagship optics are the HDs over here, right?
Yeah, so Vipers would be the next one, right? So between Strike Eagle and Razor. So the Vipers also, you're gonna get that like upper tier quality glass, and depending on the scope you pick, the features.
Dead hold BDC, so can a customer...
So that one's gonna be a bullet drop compensation.
Can they order from you with their particular ballistics?
So you can't change the reticle based on ballistics. It will have like a stock profile, and that's kind of what they do is they take the average.
Based on some industry standards.
You got it, yep.
Okay.
And then you kind of move over to like what the razors would be. And typically the razors you're gonna recognize them because of the bronze color.
Why do you guys do that?
You know, I don't know who decided that, but it's always been that way. So that's the way it is. I'm not sure
if it was like a different coating that feels a certain way, or is, does a better job.
It's just the anodizing. It's just a different color. I'm not sure.
You always see them in photos or on people's guns. You know
what it is when you see it, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think that's kind of the point. So for the longest time, our 4.5 to 27 was our flagship, Gen 2. Obviously, there was a Gen 1 before that. Recently, we came out with the Gen 3, and this one is really a premier optic. That's what's atop of all my guns for long range shooting.
What does it do better or different than the previous?
Well, so for one, 4.5 27, 6 to 36. If you're buying one of these scopes, typically you're not running it down on the low power. So to us, it was worth it to ditch that 1.5 min, so 4.5 versus 6.
Okay.
To get that upper end on the 36 power, which even for F-class guys that want to see little bitty holes at 1,000, I mean, that really kind of allows you to do that. But the glass clarity is insane. It really, and what you're paying for when you're paying for really good glass is low light performance is a big one, right? Anytime it's like dusk or dawn, you're gonna be able to pick out details a lot better. And the biggest thing is cutting through mirage. If you ever shot long distance, you know the mirage can really skew what you're seeing. This thing cuts through like, I've been waiting for this scope for a long time, so I have like 3 of them, you know what I mean? They are very, very good. The downside is with all the features and the optical quality you're getting, right, it's a little bit heavier. That's the downside of that particular optic.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is.
But it's a pretty Gucci optic for sure.
You've got red dots and LPVOs.
You got it. Yep. Just the wide line from all the way from Viper all the way to the razors, the 1 to 10, 1 to 6.
Where's the 10?
Here. You can always tell because the turrets are a little further forward. There's a little more system in the back.
So what's the other one? 8?
1 to 6.
6.
This is the Gen 2 1 to 6. Gen 3 1 to 10.
Well, that 10's quite a bit of zoom.
It is, but it allows you to, put that thing on a hunting gun, right? And you can shoot from up close.
I really can't decide if I want to put something like this on that 6.5. It's an AR.
Depends what you're going to do with it, right?
Right.
This is a great. I mean, it is a little heavier, right? It's not going to meet that sub 30 weight, but it also allows you to shoot. I've shot 800-900 yards with that on a 6.5 Creed. What I
don't like is that dot zoomed in covers a lot of target.
Yeah, it opens up. That's kind of you got to kind of pick your poison, right? So whenever it's a first, whatever you're looking at is going to get bigger. So it kind of opens up around the illumination portion. But yes, if you're on 10, like you will see some of that.
How many MOA is that dot?
It's a good question because it's first focal plane. So it goes from very, very small. Like if it's illuminated, is it illuminated now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on super bright too. So I would turn it down. On the lowest setting, it's very small, but first focal plane, it's gonna get bigger and smaller, right?
So every other setting is off?
Yep, that way if you got a setting you like, say you wanna be on 6, that way you don't have to turn it all the way back to 0 each time. You can just click it one click to shut it off.
And you guys just launched some new pistol optics, didn't you?
We did, one currently, yeah, the Defender CCW. And I
want to see these real quick before I go around here.
So these are basically our rifle mounted red dots, right? Also, you'll see a few with magnifiers on them. Here we go.
So there are so many, you guys have so many different models here. I remember when all you made was one
Strike-Fire, yeah.
Yeah,
that was probably it.
10, 15 years ago.
That was probably the one, yeah. And you can see how big and bulky it is versus now. Still a great optic at a very low price point, but you can get the same thing now in a much smaller package. So our red dots have been around for a while. We've been working on, obviously, some new ones for a long time. The first to get released is going to be the new Defender CCW. Super proud of it, super rugged. Our dots were good. They're getting a little older, so we recognize that. So we're doing some updating, and that one is just released, I think, 2 weeks ago. But it has all the modern features. The really cool thing about it, it is very low optical system. Still with a top mounted battery. So typically if you don't remove your rear sight with a plate, some rear sights are mounted to the plate, some are mounted just behind the plate. So if you pull the plate off, mount the dot you can almost always on every gun I've seen still use your rear sight to co-witness through the glass without having to get suppressor height sights or any of that. Has shake awake, auto shut off, you know, that thing gets nuclear bright. I mean, bright, bright, bright. All the way down to night vision.
What is the battery life expectancy? Oh, that is super bright. Holy
Yeah,
smokes.
they get crazy, crazy bright. I shoot a lot of pistol stuff out in the sunlight, so when your dot doesn't get bright enough and you're looking generally into the sun, it can wash out.
Yeah.
So this solves that problem.
Yeah, that's super
you touched
bright.
on battery life. That's kind of a thing in the industry, right? Battery life is going to be very particular to how you're using the optic.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what it is. A lot of guys out there will, you know, advertise their hour of battery life based on the lowest setting. We try to give you a really honest version of what the battery life is. So if you put that on, if you leave it on 6 power, it has 10 settings. If you leave it on 6 and leave it on all the time, it's about 9,500 hours.
Okay.
If you put it on the lowest setting, it's probably going to be 40, 50,000.
And it looks like the all-important battery replacement is capable without taking the dot off the gun.
And another very cool thing about this, and I'll try to have a box for you guys when we go down to the range. When you open it, you're going to have the tool that works for the whole dot. You can mount it right out of the box. And it also has about 30 sets of screws in there to fit every kind of gun that you could have with labels on it. So it's not confusing.
You've got kind of a knurled bezel here, so if a guy was going to be
Hip
cycling
rack,
this
yeah,
off
all of that stuff. And a very, very stiff housing.
And it's forward enough of the glass that you'll strike the aluminum versus the glass.
And another thing that to touch on the battery life, typically the ones with really long battery life are going to have a really dark blue tint to it. So the lighter you make that window, the less battery light you're going to have, because how it works is you have reflective material on the glass.
Okay.
You have an emitter projecting a red dot to that glass, and you're seeing the reflection. So the darker that is, the less battery you need to be able to see it. So we made this really, really clear. So that also kind of contributes to battery. We kind of had to pick the balance, right?
Price point?
This comes in matte price at $249.99.
So very
affordable. A lot of dot for not a whole lot of money.
I'm going to need to pick a couple of those up. And then, of course, you've got the line that you've been making.
The old lineup, right?
Yeah.
So we got the Razor, Viper, and Venom. And all those come in 3 and 6 MOA. Same with the new Defender CC.
So the new one is in both 3 and 6 MOA as well?
You got it, yep.
I kind of breezed past some of these things.
That's all right.
What do we got here?
So that's a Spitfire lineup. They come in 1X, 3X, and 5X. This one's the 5X because it has the red dot on top.
So 5X with a red dot on top.
Correct, and it has a little BDC inside of there.
Kind of a niche optic, right?
Correct. It's kind of like that, like the old fixed 4s, right? That you saw on everybody's optics. So a few people that want to buy it, we at least have an option for them.
I don't think I've ever even played with one of these.
So it's a prism optic. So prism optics are generally sensitive to eye relief. So if you're not getting a full picture, it's just not mounted in the right place for you. It's kind of like a scope, right?
I kind of dig that. I mean, that's something you could get used to for sure.
It's nice because it also has the 1X dot on top, right? So for anything close, obviously you don't get your perfect cheek well, but at least it has that option for you.
Is this kind of your flagship?
It's holographic, right?
Okay.
So it's definitely a little higher end. We send a lot of those out. And that also has the magnifier on the side. So those work with a lot of the red dots. So if you have your 1X and you want to be able to get a little more zoom on there, it's nice to be able to flip that over. That combo is very, very popular. That's typically what I have on like my defense ARs.
Because I've heard of these stories over the years. I've actually never broken any of your stuff.
Well, that's goal number 1.
Right.
Goal number 2 is if you do break it, we can then get you a new optic or replace. But I mean, people send in stuff from all over. I mean, I've seen dogs chewing on it.
They get in a fire?
More than likely. That looks like it might have been underwater. Or maybe they're both fire. I don't know. We used to have the little story, so you can see like there's a little story here.
This
parts
guy
coming in bags.
duct taped his shit up?
Yeah. I've even seen like tripods with.
That one looks shot.
That's the crazy thing. How does it?
Yeah,
you're usually close to the scope. How did that happen?
The amount of fire damage. Was that dog or a bear?
You know, I don't know. That's probably a dog. A bear would probably be in a few more pieces.
That's awesome.
But there's no way to know. So anytime anything happens, we will always honor our products replace.
How did
if we can't fix it, we'll give you a new one.
How did you shoot your stuff?
That's the question. Because we've seen multiple with bullet holes, and it's like, man, you gotta be shooting pretty close to yourself to.
We're gonna give you a knitting kit instead in return.
So typically when somebody sends a pair of binos that look like that from a dog, we'll typically send them a new product, and then we'll also send them a dog toy to hopefully they'll chew on that the next
crazy.
time.
So this is the point I wanted to get to, and I know this about you guys. You honor this. People see the stuff and they're like, yeah, but if I ever need it, they're not going to. You do it.
Yeah, and we've shipped things out to the second tree past the stack of tires in the woods. Like somebody drops their binos off a cliff, they break them. They need them for their hunt. Like we have overnighted things literally to like a telephone pole in the woods.
Hilarious.
We just want to make sure getting people succeed, right?
Does it become like fun when you guys get something sent in where you're all like gather around? Let's you're not going to believe. Yeah, you're not going to believe this.
I'm sure there's been a lot of those stories kind of over the years, but the goal is really just to make sure people have what they want when they buy it, and you know, they can trust that it's going to be good forever. So a lot of people know us like for our warranty, right? So typically, if you know, management, ownership, whoever treats their customers a certain way, they do the same with the employees. It's a really friendly environment. We've really worked hard to kind of build a culture around just treating people right. A lot of people come and they're like, well, what's the secret? Like, we don't have any secrets. You know, we try to make good products as first, take care of customers, and just treat people well, right? So Dan Hamilton, this is mostly, he's the original founder, all of his artwork, and you know, people tried to help him hang it. He's like, you got something better to do. There you go, straighten it up for him. I did notice that. But most of the paintings are going to be some sort of military flying.
Was he a pilot?
He wasn't a pilot. He was in the Air Force for a while, and then his son Dave,
these are cool,
who is also management here. He was actually a backseater in the F-15 Strike Eagle. So if you can imagine where that kind of came from.
Yeah. Very cool.
But there's tons of them. There's a lot of good art. I mean, you could kind of spend a long time just looking. Oh wow. So yeah, all the hallways are pretty much lined.
This was all stuff from his personal collection.
Correct.
Like
somebody needs to come straighten some though. They've gotten a little crooked. So this is our machine shop. A lot of people ask, like, do we make every product? No, we can't. We can't keep up with demand. We can't get certain products in at the price points they're in. So what we do in here is all of the AMG line and a lot of the prototyping design.
AMG.
It's a Vortex AMG, like AMG Razor.
Okay.
We had the 6-24 for a while. We just released an optic. That's kind of a contract thing. And then obviously we're working on future project as well. But yeah, I don't know the square footage, but it's a large building.
It's huge.
Everything is in-floor heated in here. There's roughly 80 miles of tubing. They've looked at, HVAC and all that. It would take about 2 hours to change the room temperature 1 degree with HVAC. We can do it in about 20 to 30 minutes with in-floor heating. Typically in machine shops, you're gonna see little cutouts around the machines where they can go. We kind of built for future plans. So the whole floor is, 18 inches high acrylic concrete. So we can put the machines kind of wherever we want. They're all super high end, holding tolerances down to 5 microns.
Wow.
Which in the machining world, that they'll know kind of how very, very small that is. Typically you're working in 1 to 10 thou. These are down to 5 microns or so. The temperature is a big thing though, right? Because we're trying to hold tolerances that are super, super tight. Even the machines have chip chillers and mist busters on them to keep the temperature in the machine cutting to the actual temperature of the room. So 70 degrees plus or minus 1 degree is kind of the tolerance for temperature.
That's cool. A lot of stuff you don't think about.
Correct, yeah. These are all of our sprint machines. They do very, very small parts, very, very tiny. Optics, there's a lot of tiny, small pieces and parts. So
holy crap.
I mean, you can see how small some of these clicker pins are.
This is stuff that we're making in here right now?
Correct. So it's a part for, X optic. I'm not sure which one.
Sure.
Tons of little, you can see the threads on that too. So that's a threaded piece and it's very, very tiny.
Wow, that's super fine machining.
That's it. So
can I drop that back?
We always lose a few. It's okay. So all the small stuff is going to be
extra parts.
Typically when you need a few extra parts, you just go bang on the side of the machine. And the ones that were stuck in the oil will then kind of release it, right? So you send a 2.5 inch piece in.
Wait a second. This scope body's coming out of this?
That's correct. And then we have the order of operations here. So big heavy piece, all the aluminum we need has to be a certain grade in order to keep the tolerances. So towards the end of machines, you'll see bins with the recyclables coming out. We can't then use that again. We'll trade it to the aluminum guy and then, get you know, high quality.
Sure.
I'm not sure the grade sequence.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
first machine on the right is this is coming in. It does a lot of the ID and OD cuts. So the threading, the pass through, all that stuff, broaches all the way through.
I didn't actually realize that these are getting spun out of a solid block.
Yeah, the housing is, yep.
I mean,
so that's machine 1, right? So after it comes out of there, then a person has to grab it, put it in machine 2, and then that's then when we get this. So feel the weight difference,
Holy
right?
smokes.
So
Wow.
95% of the material is actually coming off to get final product, right?
Wow.
So you can see like how intricate the inside, all the little grooves and threading.
Yeah, you can't screw anything up
Correct.
there.
It has to be pretty much
And
perfect.
this is the HD line?
That's the AMG 6-24, right? We
Okay.
just discontinued that to make room for future products. So that.
So when people look at cost and they're like, why does it cost so much?
Correct. Yeah.
Not even just the cost of the raw material, but
The machines.
yeah, the amount of time all of that
Yep.
takes is nuts. So
this
you guys
is-
can't feel this, but like very heavy, very not heavy, and you can see there's all that material's just taken out for ending up with what we need there. Go ahead, I interrupted.
You're okay. No, you were still finishing. I technically interrupted you, but so the heart and soul of any optic is the erector system. This is like a ball joint, if you can picture it. So when you dial your windage or elevation, you're actually moving the erector system up and down in the ball joint. Then there's little springs to hold it. So under recoil, you're going to get a little shake, and then it's going to re-zero back. The hard thing about making these, and while scopes are getting so much better than the old like World War II fixed whatever power, is because of the erector tube and CNC machines, right? You see that angle? So there's little bushings that ride in there, and as you turn, that's what's moving your lenses in and out to give you that adjustable magnification.
So
right?
the finer and finer tolerances we can achieve with.
Correct. So you notice on scope, say like on a 1 to 10, 1 and 2 are pretty far apart, and as you get closer, it might be like 6 to 10 in the same amount. That's because you see the angle change here. Mm-hmm. So that has a lot to do with that. Making this angle was impossible without CNC machines, right? Especially to repeat it. So you can see in this version of the scope, that's the portion we're looking at. You see those bushings riding in and out?
Oh, that's super cool.
So you can see how they get closer together. So you start here, and you go ahead and twist, and you can see they don't move parallel, right? They move at different rates. And basically that's giving you your minimum and maximum magnification. But yeah, so that's what these guys do. Erector tube's made over here. But
So this is a cutaway of this, I'm assuming?
you got it, just cut in half, yep. Yeah, so you can see all the light refraction, like knurling.
Is that what that's there for?
Correct.
Okay.
Keep the light down.
You see that, Drew? They've got this knurled to stop the light from refracting on a smooth surface.
Yeah, that was like a working sample inside. Outside, obviously, there's a lot of light coming in. But it was like a real scope just with a plexi body. So anytime they're coming up with a new optical system, they've got to refigure out that angle and stuff, right? So when you use a 6 power, so in a razor, right, a 1 to 6, a 3 to 18, a 4.5 to 27, they're all 6 power optics. Typically they can use the same erector set. And that's where the reticle is housed. There's actually, 4 to 6 lenses inside of that thing. A lot of people think scopes, right? There's just a piece of glass on this end and a piece of glass on this end. In reality, there could be 15 or more inside of that. So we have a CNC sandblaster here. Not only is and I can show you on some of these parts. So they come in really shiny.
After the machining?
After the machining. And then they're gonna come out with this kind of dull finish on them, right? All the edges are not sharp because, I mean, this thing can cut you if you grab it wrong. We make all the mounts for each one in-house, so they sit on here a certain way. And then the sandblaster, the media has been very carefully picked. Some anodizing, you can rub it and you can like leave skin behind. You notice that doesn't do that?
Yeah.
So you can see one of these is right and one of these is wrong, right? They're two different tints. So the CNC sandblaster kind of helps prevent some of that. So the PSI is very particular, the media, how long they're in there, all of that stuff.
These are some of the different things that you're...
All the different medias, yep. If anybody's a reloader, it's the same stuff you would put to clean brass. Just
Sure.
different types, different aggressivenesses and all that stuff. And that's kind of the end result there. So once she does sandblast parts, they then go into the tanks over there and get the final black stuff on it.
I like it.
And right behind you, after they're anodized, that's the laser machine that puts all the markings on the turret, you know, so when you dial, it's also robotic, so everything matches exactly the same every time. So
it's crazy coming into factory settings like this these days. It used to be full of people, and now it's just like machines running.
So typically there is a few more people than there is now. They might be in a meeting or something. So all of our fixtures that like hold the scopes or hold those little parts and pieces are kind of made over here in the manual shop.
You get the machine shop guys here, like old school machinists making parts.
So most of these cats know how to use those. And then back in that room there, you can see the soundproof room.
The clean room
that
there?
Is basically a recoil testing machine. So they've custom built a machine that tests recoil, and it's within like 97% accuracy.
Is it using firearms or some kind of hydraulics?
It's a machine, yeah.
So we've done a bunch of these different factory tours, and something that always is interesting to me is the quality control. And there's companies that make stuff that have like no quality control, and then there's some that do. We're not allowed to show you, but in this room is a super high-tech machine that is basically pressure testing, not air pressure, but pressure testing the product to find out failure points so they can make it better.
Yeah, the big thing is with the price of ammo, right? So we'll just make up a number of 50,000 round pistol tests. You got to have people in and out of there, loading mags, not to mention the cost of the ammo.
Safety issues.
All of it, right?
Yeah.
So this was a big investment to start, but once we have it, it really, I mean, it's paid for itself however many times over, right, in the long run.
Not to mention you blow pistols up.
And you save your hands. It's
yeah.
fun for a little bit, but after a couple mags, you know, shoot. So over here is a lot of testing, quality control. It's obviously kind of blocked off, super secret squirrel stuff. So in here, we recently received a contract for a military optic. They handle a lot of that stuff kind of in the other half of that secret room.
You got a clean room in there, huh?
Yeah, so this portion is a clean room. It's not class 1, but we do have what we think is a class 1. We don't have OSHA come in because we're not making food or doing surgery, so we just kind of hold ourselves to that own standard.
This is neat to see.
But yeah, I mean, so I know we're back ordered on things. We are making them, we promise. There's a ton of them here. They're all coming out soon, so if you're waiting, it will be out soon, we promise. But this
this cart's mine, right?
Sure. I mean, if you can get out of here with it. 636 Gen 3s, that's all what these guys are building now. If you could receive a Razor product, typically in this bronze color, it's had 3 to 4 sets of eyes, hands in it, on it. You're paying for a premium product. We want to make sure and kind of deliver that to you, right? Lots of goodies going around. But I mean, I don't know how many carts are in there, but there's quite a few. So
that's crazy.
They're getting ready to go out. So one of the cool things the Hamiltons did is this kind of door wasn't on the normal plans, right? It's just kind of one of those care things that Vortex did. We have a couple guys here in wheelchairs. Rather than kind of fight the snow in the wintertime, they then, after the building was done, just kind of cut that door and they let them kind of park in so they don't have to deal with the elements out there trying to get in. That's
fantastic.
They go above and beyond whenever they can, customers or employees. In here is actually like the clean room, right? That's where the optics are open.
Okay.
They're working on them, fixing them, assembling them. And these guys will come out, they'll put on their rubber shoes and their outfits. They'll step into the air bath, kind of get all loose hairs and stuff like that off, and then they're good to kind of step in. Once they're done, that's kind of, they pass them through a hole over to that portion of the room where they kind of do final checks. Lots and lots of scopes. I mean, you can feel, I'm sure you know what a clean room is, but you can kind of feel the air pressure coming through. Yeah. So yeah, you're familiar. A lot of airflow things going into there.
Yeah.
And even those desks they have. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a scope with like a piece of dust in it or anything. It's like a huge black spot right in the middle of your optic.
Right.
So these guys are obviously working over top of the optic. So those desks, that little white grate, actually kind of blows air away from their workspace. So if an eyelash or beard hair or whatever does fall, it will then kind of hit the floor and then get pushed out the building.
So these guys, how long does it take to learn to do what they do?
It's a lot, and it's a hard job, right? You have to be willing to sit there for most of the day.
Kind of like a watchmaker.
You saw the size of some of those screws, right?
Yeah,
They're very, very tiny. They have special tools so they can get them where they need to go and all of that good stuff. So I was a competitive shooter for Vortex for about 7 years. Mm-hmm. I moved here, took a job they offered. We'll step in here real quick, about 2 years ago. So this is our CMM room, right? This is where we measure. Everything that gets machined has to be measured. I'm gonna let him talk about it because he's probably way better at this than I am, but I'll give you the rundown.
What do you do?
So my name's Lee. I'm a metrology engineer. So I guess like what we do in metrology here is we work hand in hand with the machinist. So like the whole process is like the engineerings will design the part. They'll give.
I'm moving closer to you because I got a microphone on.
Engineering will design the part. They'll give the machinist a CAD model, and they will give us a CAD model. And then what we do in here, so we have 3 coordinate measuring machines. We can import the CAD model and program the coordinate measuring machine to the part, or like measure it and then relay the information back to the machinist. As you can see, the coordinate measuring machine is strictly made for measurement. It has a great big chunk of granite. Granite is a great material for a foundation of an accurate machine. One, it holds its temperature very well. When we moved from Middleton, this machine sat outside.
Oh, wow.
For one night, like in March. It was in a box truck, but it sat outside before we were able to move it in the machine. And it got down to like 30 some degrees. And then it took 2 weeks for that granite to come back to temperature in order for us to calibrate it and start using the machine.
How much does that weigh?
5,200 pounds.
Oh wow, it's got the sticker right on it.
That's a big slab.
Common question. And then 2, you can polish it very smooth, and you don't have to worry about it warping over time, because these machines actually ride on air bearings. So this whole column's actually floating. It's kind of like if you picture like an air hockey table, like the puck actually floats across the table. This whole column and then this whole column are actually floating. They're not touching.
So it's kind of like a 5-axis machine, right? Because it has the...
Yep, the head turns. So you got 3.
So it's using that needle, and that's touching points, predetermined points to verify dimensions.
Yep, we got the different probes that'll go ahead and touch the part. And it's a synthetic ruby that's actually the tip that is polished very smooth.
Ruby.
Yeah, the synthetic ruby.
Is that just because it doesn't wear? Is that why that?
It doesn't wear, and it doesn't pick up the aluminum shards and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can polish it and make it very accurate. But yeah, so then it would gather the data, compare it back to the CAD model, then you can see what's in.
Find out who's getting yelled at.
Yep. See what's in or out of spec. Relay back to the machinist so they can dial in their machines. Once their machine's dialed in the first time, then they will run like normally 2 hours, segregate the parts, bring in like the 2-hour part. We'll check it. If it checks good, then we know those 2 hour worth of parts is good.
What kind of tolerances is this capable of checking?
So
like an inch?
No.
2 inches?
Our tightest tolerances are about plus or minus 5 microns.
So put that in like some kind of layman's terms.
So
here we go. That's a perfect segue.
There we go.
Then we got this chart.
Oh, look at this.
That's awesome.
You're not the first person that's walked through this room.
If you blew up a paper clip, this would be the diameter. So that'd be 1 millimeter or 1,000 microns. A grain of salt is about 500 microns. A human hair, just plucked one out of your head, it's about 70 microns. We lose visibility between 30 and 40 microns. And then we have a cool chart that actually shows that too. And then like you said, we're actually measuring basically down to a red blood cell, plus or minus 5 microns.
Wow.
Some of our tolerances that we're holding on a diameter or a distance. And then this is a cool chart. It really tests your vision, but it puts it in perspective, right? So inside this crosshair, there's a little square. And then that's 70 microns, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. So you can actually come up and see like how tall it, or how small
That's cool.
it really is. But yeah, it just puts it in perspective. Like,
I can't see that shit.
I can't see any of them. I think he's kidding. Until you put the
that's why we gotta have the magnifying glass.
It's real.
This is the new warehouse. Just finished about 6 months ago.
So we're in the new warehouse?
You got it.
Where was your warehouse before?
We'll go through it. It was in the main building.
I'm just trying to grab some.
No, that's okay. Again, that was supposed to be, a 15, 20-year building. 3 or 4 years later.
You got too big, too fast.
Too big, too fast. Good problem to have. So this is our small batch stuff. So anybody that has, a MLLE order or something like that, just needs a couple little things or even apparel, people will actually come down and grab these and send out kind of small batch orders.
Holy smokes. Hey guys.
They always like to growl, but they're friendly.
Yeah, sure. Usually friendly dogs growl at you.
They got to protect their space, You reach your hand in there though, they won't nip at you. So it's kind of one of the repair departments. a lot of packaging and just closed items. They don't take anything actually apart in that specific room.
Just like fixing busted boxes or something?
Yeah, something got broken in the box. These guys are having a big tournament in here, it looks like.
We got a cafeteria in here?
So this is one of the break rooms for the warehouse. They just finished it. It's
Sorry to interrupt you guys.
They kind of modeled after like a Wisconsin supper club. So I know you guys aren't from Wisconsin, but if you go eat at a supper club, but yeah, you'll see a lot of like ceiling tiles and booths and so it's kind of modeled after that. A lot of these guys like to play darts on their lunch break, so they enjoy it as well. So this is kind of the best place to kind of see the thing, right? Back in that far left corner, you'll see the boxes are really close together. That little space holds as much stuff as our whole entire old warehouse. So that little quadrant back there. So we were out of space. The whole machine shop was full of boxes. The cool thing about, so some of the forklifts they have in here, they actually embed wires inside of the concrete. And some of these forklifts are basically like wire driven. So those are only 6 feet wide, but the forklift can go in there on that wire, grab something from the left side, drop it down, take what they need, and then even put it back up on the right side without having to back out.
That's cool, man.
So a lot of this stuff's done with efficiency, right? So people will pick from inside these lanes. You see like the conveyor belt coming out. They will then kind of RFID their way around, and as they pick it, they know what it is based on what the RFID says. They'll pack it up on pallets, and then the trucks come there to pick it.
And off it goes,
and everything comes out of here. If you get it from like a Shields, a Bass Pro, Mom and Pa's, gun shop, whatever, it all comes out of here. And on the far side is receiving. That's where the trucks come in. They pull stuff out. In here are small parts or even some warranty stuff. They do the paperwork and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, it's quite the operation. So some of the stuff will go down on here. The RFID will read it. The elevator will grab it, pick it up, and then shoot it out to them. And then they can then pass things up or down to rifle scope or bino repair.
Are you telling me that the fork truck drives itself?
The forklift, so there's still an operator in it just to make sure nothing happens, but it pretty much drives itself. This side's different. That's in the back. These guys are actually controlling 100% of these. In the back, you'll notice all those pallets are stacked exactly like 2 inches over.
I see that.
It stacks it exactly perfect.
Just jams them in.
That's it, yeah. So
these are all like little things like
small parts.
I broke a
throw lever or whatever.
I lost a scope cap.
You got it.
Okay.
It's just kind of care item. So up here is rifle scope repair, right? Down there they're kind of building, assembling. Up here they will actually take things apart, fix small parts and pieces, send it out. So it's not a clean room, but it's a semi-clean room, right? But up here, and just below it is going to be binoculars. Up here they do anything that mounts to a rifle, tripods, stuff like that. And then they're kind of split up into 3 divisions basically. So a much bigger room than they had. You can see it's not quite full yet, but kind of planned for the future,
I like it. You guys have some government contracts with that new optic.
Yep.
That's going on like the designated marksman rifle, isn't it?
But the UH-1 is a holographic sight, so very clear, very big window, pretty good battery life, and it works really good with a magnifier. So it's really kind of a versatile optic.
This is maddening.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on these shelves.
I just mean how many SKUs and parts, and I mean you guys actually, you make a lot of stuff, but
yeah, there's lots of them. Yeah, every T-shirt, every pair of socks, every throw lever, scope. There's tons of SKUs. I would say into the thousands. There's a nature conservancy behind us, and basically it's a 99-year lease. The conservancy leased it from the state, I guess. There's turkey hunters and all kinds of stuff. It's also a really good place to test optics. So sometimes, like on the little mezzanine area, they'll have a bunch of display optics if we're looking for certain things.
Sure.
It's a good place to check for that kind of stuff. Lunchtime. It's a lot of the marketing crew on break. This was Dave Hamilton's old office, and you can see like all the Strike Eagle planes.
Yeah.
So he was the backseater in that for a long time. He actually left the back seat to go back on the ground and be like a JTAC commander, I think it's called, where he actually called in the coordinates.
Got a good friend that was a JTAC.
Yeah, I kind of left the back seat to get back on the ground. That guy's pretty hardcore, Dave. Like he's
If he was a JTAC, he's a stud. That's one of the hardest pipelines in special operations.
Yeah, he was a stud. So this is like the whole marketing crew
alive?
up here. Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's here.
So this is, how many people work in your, is this
In
the department
marketing?
that you were under?
No, I'm down in dealer sales. Is
Okay.
technically
Oh, yeah,
who
yeah,
we
yeah,
follow
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
You can kind of get a good overview
you
of the
said
whole
that.
crew. You see all the dogs.
So, these are-
Boardrooms up top.
who is this crew?
That's
down here?
consumer sales, so the showroom's right there.
Okay.
And they have like a full photo studio in on the right, and they do kind of the podcast just behind it there. All the video stuff. We got the IT team. So this was the old warehouse, and you can
Okay.
see there's still quite a bit of stuff in here. They're just kind of waiting to get the rest of those racks, but you can see the vast difference.
So what's the
of
plan for
size.
here?
I don't think they know yet. I
Just
know.
need the space for something
I
at
know
some
there's a
point.
lot of assembly that's going to be going on for that new Army optic, so they may section off a piece of that for them.
Okay.
I know marketing's kind of vouching for a little spot to get more studio stuff, but it's quite a bit smaller than the old one. If you would have came about a year ago before that building opened, there was boxes in every corner of this
Just
building.
jammed in wherever you could
yeah,
stick
all in
them.
the machine shop was stacked to the floor. So people disrespect their binos a lot more than they do a rifle scope, right? It's not
You're
attached
right.
to a rifle.
You're right.
So whenever it's a rifle scope, you typically like set it down carefully and what's
What's
up, boys?
this? What's this? I see shooting mats.
So these are the two guys on our team, Travis in the green, Nick. This is the trailer we take around to a lot of these trainings. So if we're
Got some
driving to a
ammo,
yeah, pretty
Can I-
much it's
can
a
I-
whole shooting range in a box.
mustache rides.
So this is kind of like the workhorse for our team. We put all the guns in here, shooting mats, binos, all the tools you could possibly need, chronos, and we run them down and do just the whole training kind of out of this trailer when they're not on site.
I love it.
And then they usually end up signing their name at the end of it. So we get a lot of autographs.
I like it. We've got something similar.
Yeah,
Just no mustache rides, you pervert.
That's right, dude.
I'm Mickey.
I'm Nick.
Nick, nice to meet you.
The stash has been a big topic of discussion the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
He gets you. Thanks, guys.
I grew up and grew a beard with mine, but whatever. Nice to see you, gents. Hot coffee. Oh, hey guys. Well, so we just wrapped up the Vortex tour, man, and they like sent us with a bunch of goodies. I got hot coffee, we had lunch. No, you might not get the exact same treatment if you get here because you're not Mickey and Drew and Kanan, but that's not really the point. The point is, in my takeaway, we know the products are good. We use their products. We show you these products. We talk about these products, but we really wanted to come and see the people. That's why we like doing these tours. It seems like everybody genuinely likes being here. I think I overheard that their turnover rate is like single digits, like 1 or 2%. That's pretty awesome for a company this size. And like everywhere you walked through this huge 500,000 square foot-ish facility, everybody was smiling and happy. Would you guys say you got kind of the same impression?
Yeah, totally. Yep.
Free coffee, some swag, cool optics made in the USA. This view out here of this amazing countryside in south central Wisconsin. I dig it. Vortex Optics, USA company, USA people, by American, from Americans. Yeah, something like that, I don't know. Be well, don't be dickheads. Hey, if you train with a firearm, if you carry a firearm, if you teach people firearms, the barrel block, you should get one. We keep a whole bucket of them in our range trailer. Quite simply what it is, it blocks the barrel, just as the name states, and at the end is a cartridge molded into the plastic. In this case, it's a 9mm. They come in different calibers. You just install it right into the barrel, plugs the barrel up, makes it completely inert. It's orange so everybody can see it. Of course, when using it, you're still ingraining good habits of muzzle discipline and trigger finger control. And then it comes with a magazine follower block, which allows the student to practice things like manipulating the slide, manipulating the magazine without the follower locking the slide to the rear. Super simple, super easy to use, made in the USA. You saw how easy I put it in. That's how easy it comes out. And they come for rifles as well. Check them out, Barrel Block.